I did hear about that Miley Cyrus thing.
What are your thoughts on that?
There's a company called Viacom, and Viacom, as you're probably familiar with, they actually own MTV, but they also own Disney Channel as well. And I think that there isn't a huge financial agenda that's going on behind the scenes here. And what they do is they take somebody like a Miley Cyrus, and they get the Disney, the younger kids, the Hannah Montana to fall in love. And then once she begins to grow up to where she's 17, 18, 19 years old, she grew up, now all those kids that loved her when they were little are now all that age as well. And then they flip a switch. And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, I've got to express myself. This is really truly who I am right now, and I'm no longer this little girl. And you've seen that from Miley Cyrus to Jessica Simpson to Christina Aguilera to Britney Spears. And it's the same show over and over and over again. I feel for Miley because I feel like Miley is trying to figure out her identity, trying to figure out who she is as a person. And I'm not here to condemn her. Man, I'm here to pray for her, but I also too want to protect my kids. You can either isolate yourself and say, I'm not going to watch anything, I'm not going to do anything, and I'm just going to isolate myself and put myself over here while the rest of the world's doing it. I'm not going to teach my kids isolation. I want to teach my kids insulation so that they are insulated, so that they understand kind of the whys behind the what too. I want these to be teaching moments along the way. So if I was sitting with Mercedes and we were watching that, man, I would want to be able to say to Sadie, hey, you know, you really have to guard your reputation because people are going to speak about this. And I don't know, online and the Twitter feeds, there were more negative comments than there were positive comments that were online about the whole reaction about everything that happened last night. And the reason why is because she's now attached to her behavior, and her behavior now becomes part of her identity. I mean, everybody still remembers the Britney Spears kiss with Madonna. That's one of the things that's part of her identity now. And I just would want to teach my daughter, hey, you need to be sensitive to the actions that you display because they actually become part of how people label you and judge you. When I'm talking to my daughter, or whenever I'm talking to teenagers, especially teenage girls, I talk about the difference between a Ford Ranger and a Rolls Royce. A Ford Ranger is honestly a pretty cheap vehicle. And if you look out, they're everywhere. You see them all over the place. And they have to advertise for Ford Ranger. You're going to see it on commercials, you're going to see it in the newspaper ads, and it's all about advertising to get your name out across the board. But a Rolls Royce is completely different. They stand out. You know, I've read that the Rolls Royce has 8 coats of paint. One time it was the only car with a 1 million mile odometer on it. They hook a stethoscope up on a Rolls Royce engine for 8 hours before it rolls out of the production factory. And you don't hear advertisements for Rolls Royce. Big difference. And here's what I like to teach teenage girls and college girls and single girls, is that if you advertise yourself and you advertise your body, you're like that Ford Ranger. And guess what? You're going to have a whole different kind of buyer be attracted to you. And at the end of the day, you're going to be thrown in a junkyard. There's a lot of Ford F-150s that are used and abused, and you can find parts for them every day of the week. But you don't see very many Rolls Royces in a junkyard. And when you have a Rolls Royce, it's different. And here's what happens. People notice it. They're fewer and far between. You got to look harder for them. But whenever you find somebody that's classy, Rolls Royces are bought by classy buyers. And if you want somebody to treat you classy, act classy, dress classy, be different. Don't be like what everybody else is around.